Death of a Unicorn is a new horror comedy from A24 and it stars Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega and Will Poulter. And without giving too much of the plot away, let me tell you, it's a monster movie where the creature is a fucking unicorn. So yeah, it promises a pretty wild concept, and let me tell you, it delivered. I really enjoyed this movie. It's not a flawless movie by any means. I don't think it's one of the best movies A24 has ever put out, but it's definitely not the worst. I really enjoyed this movie, regardless of flaws. Let's get into what I loved about the movie. First off, this movie is fucking hilarious. I was laughing quite a bit throughout this movie. When it comes to the comedy, this movie strikes gold. Will Poulter, especially, he was fantastic in this movie. He definitely had a few great lines that are really funny, and he delivered them perfectly. Will Poulter is such a great actor. Ever, it wasn't until I saw Detroit quite a few years back where I was like, this guy's a damn good actor. And he shows his acting chops again here, this time in comedic fashion, and he never misses when it comes to the comedy in this movie. And I thought Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega, they were also great in this movie. Of course, I always got to expect some great performances from them. No matter if they're in something good or bad, at least they're not the worst aspects of any of it. They are also really good in this movie. And as for the horror stuff, it's fun, especially when it goes for the gore, because god damn is this movie gory. Holy shit. It goes for it, and I loved every bit of that. And this movie is also very well paced, too. It's not a typical slow burn kind of movie like what the vast majority of A24's catalog is. It moves at a very nice pace. This movie is meant to be fun and funny, and you get quite a bit of horror out of it, too. When it comes to just sticking to what it's trying to be, I thought this movie worked. Now, as for flaws, I will say the emotional core involving Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd, because they're playing father and daughter in this movie. I didn't really care about their characters that much, and they're the focus of this movie, and that's kind of a shame. The movie, when it comes to the screenplay, this movie never really gives them an opportunity to really build emotion with each other. So when it comes to the moments where it wants you to feel for them, you really don't. And yeah, that's about it, and that's a major issue. I can kind of I can kind of get past the terrible CGI at points in this movie because it's a lower budget, but then at the same time, Godzilla minus one had a similar budget to this movie, and that movie's visual effects are stunning for that low of a budget. So yeah, in a way, I did expect the CGI to be a bit better, but I don't know how experienced of a director the director of this movie is. I think this is the first movie I can recall seeing from this guy. But yeah, other than that, Death of a Unicorn, I thought was a really great time. I really enjoyed it for the vast majority of it. It's a fun movie. That's all it's really trying to be, and I will say it really succeeded at that. I am going to give Death of a Unicorn a B plus. A Working Man is the second collaboration with Jason Statham and director David Ayer after last year's The Beekeeper, which I think is an awesome movie, by the way. And this time it's written by David Ayer and the one and only Sylvester Stallone. This is the second movie that Jason Statham had a starring role in where Sylvester Stallone wrote it. Yeah, the previous one was Homefront, and that came out, holy shit, 12 years ago now. Wow. Anyways, this one is about this working man, as the title suggests, and he must re-employ his specific set of skills, or should I say particular set of skills, like say taken, as you will. And yeah, you must try to track down his boss's missing daughter. Yeah, it's a typical action thriller type plot, and you know what? I enjoyed this movie. I will say it's not quite as good as The Beekeeper. Actually, I think The Beekeeper is a lot better than this. But I still had a fun time with this movie. It does exactly what it promises. It has Jason Statham kicking ass, killing lots of people, brutalizing them with all sorts of different weapons. You know, he's got those one-liners. Jason Statham is just being Jason Statham, but that's what I go to his movies for. It's a fun time. It's a great way to kill off 2 hours. I will say this movie isn't as tightly paced as The Beekeeper, and the story isn't quite as bonkers and silly, but it's still a fun time. Some great action. Jason Statham is awesome. Michael Pena is awesome in this movie too. Yeah, you get him in this movie. You also got David Harbour in this movie. My God, this movie has an awesome action cast. I mean, David Harbour, holy shit, man, he's really getting a lot of work lately. I mean, Violent Night, which kicked fucking ass. Yeah, that David Harbour. And plus, he's going to be in Thunderbolts later this year, which is my most anticipated MCU film of the year. David Harbour continues to be fucking awesome, and I love him when he does action roles. He is great. But yeah, don't expect anything too deep, too original. It's your typical action thriller, but it's a fun one. It's not as tightly paced as, say, like, yeah, The Beekeeper. The Beekeeper is a much tighter paced movie than this. It is a better movie than this, I will say. But when it comes to just delivering on the action, I thought A Working Man was a damn good film. Yeah, it's got the corny dialogue, some really bad dialogue at times, but I could throw that aside because I still had a fun time just watching people get brutally killed by Jason Statham in all of his awesome glory. I am going to give A Working Man a B+. The Woman in the Yard is a new horror film from Blumhouse. Ooh. I mean, I did like Blumhouse's last horror outing, Wolfman. I know quite a few people didn't like Wolfman, but I thought it was a great time. So I thought, well, Blumhouse might be going on the right track. That maybe I might have something to look forward to with The Woman in the Yard. And plus, it's directed by Wam Sarah. I hope I did not butcher that last name, that whole name, but I mean, yeah, this person has directed a few decent movies here and there. I mean, I enjoyed Nonstop. I enjoyed Jungle Cruise. I think this person directed Jungle Cruise as well. I thought that was a decent movie. House of Wax, the 2005 slasher flick, not the 53 Vincent Price movie. That movie's okay. I don't hate House of Wax. It's fine, I guess. So yeah, I was like, this person has a decent track record of making like okay movies. So I was like thinking, okay, yeah, maybe this movie might be along those, like just being okay. No, this movie was boring as shit. It's not a badly made movie. It's not anywhere near the worst shit that Blumhouse has put out. Like, it's not The Exorcist Believer. It's not Insidious, the Red Door that came out a couple years ago. It's not like fucking The Gallows. It's not in the league of those, but I did not care about a single fucking thing that went on in this movie. And this movie's whole plot has to do with like emotional shit, because it has to deal with like grief and whatnot. But also, yeah, it's just mainly about this woman who this family finds in their yard. She's dressed all in black. And yeah, she seems innocent and harmless at first, but then horror soon follows. Okay. When it comes to, having an emotional core, this movie falls completely flat. This movie also had no good scares. I mean, what does this movie have for scares? Yeah, there's jump scares, your typical Blumhouse fashion jump scares. This movie also tries to be very psychological, and that didn't even get to me. When it comes to scares, this movie's really weak. It's just your most basic horror shit ever. And yeah, the performances, well, they're fine. It's not like, wow, this person really gives a powerful performance. Like, nobody gives that in this movie. It's just one of those movies that just went one year and out the other. I'm like, I don't care about a fucking thing. This plot isn't that engaging. And yeah, the scares suck. The movie just bored the shit out of me. I mean, when it comes to like the technical aspects, this movie is perfectly fine. It's well made, it's well shot. When it comes to the directing, I thought Wam Sarah, and once again, I hope I didn't butcher that name. I thought this person did a really good job when it comes to directing. I mean, it's about the same kind of direction as I expected from him. Just this movie's script is kind of ass. But yeah, if you're looking forward to a horror movie this weekend, just go and see Death of a Unicorn. It's a much better movie than this. I had a much better time with that. It's just another typical generic Blumhouse horror movie. Nothing new here. Whatever. It's just a whatever movie. I am going to give The Woman in the Yard a C minus.